Hi guys, Legend of Old 101 here once again, bringing you another reaction video, Aries Explained by Think Story. So, it's a YouTube channel that I go to quite a lot to hear just about endings of shows or movies. There's 3 others that I watch as well, but this is one of my main channels that I like to watch. So go check them out, subscribe as well. And I've seen this show, all 8 episodes, and this show is amazing. I'll tell you something right now. If you're into shows like the supernatural, just great dramas in general, and great European TV shows, Netflix, it has all that. This show is intriguing, different, and original. I liked it, yo. I liked it. You know what I'm saying? So, I ain't gonna say too much. This is basically spoilers anyway. This video is gonna show a lot of spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, go away and watch this 8-episode Netflix show right now. Aries is called. Go watch it, finish it, come back, watch this video and this reaction. And yeah, it's epic, yo. It's epic. So good, so damn good. Anyways, yo, let's get into this reaction. Remember to follow me in the Freeman place. You can find your boy Legend of Old 101, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Thumbs the video up, share the video, subscribe, press that notification bell, and put your comments in the comment section down below. So let's get into this show. I'm ready. Wait, is there nothing crashing? Let's make sure. Let's reboot this real quick. Make sure my internet's not down. Hopefully not. Oh, it's loading right now. What's going on? Yeah, there we go.
Chain up grandma, puke up a tarball, and oh god, what is that? Because we have quite possibly the most f***ed up ending to a television show ever.
Epic.
Leave it to the Europeans to release Aris, a story about a...
It's Dutch, by the way. The show is Dutch. It's a show from Holland. Really good. And if you know by now, watch the show Ragnarok. I watch all sorts of European shows. If you're not into European shows, go get into it now. You're missing out.
A Dutch secret society that may or may not be holding a demonic entity. Now, I have to preface everything by saying this show has a lot of flaws and definitely isn't for everyone, but the ending is just so...
I don't want to say a lot of flaws. I wouldn't say that. He's going, nah. This is a tight show, to be fair. It's a really tight show. It's just got a lot of subplots that could go anywhere. It could branch out into little kind of stories on their own because there's so much stuff going on. They kind of just focusing on honing on certain stories at one time. So I wouldn't say flaws. I don't know, but I don't think it's that. There's flaws, yes, but not anything to what he's talking about.
So out there, I had to cover it. So even if you haven't seen the show, you're in for a wild ride. The final episode begins with Carmen after she was unable to kill a baby as part of her initiation to become president of Aris. You know, your typical initiation. You see, in order to become president, one must show they are willing to make an ultimate sacrifice, that they are willing to give up the guilt that holds them back from doing bad things. This test manifests itself in different ways for different people. Arnold, for example, had to kill this woman, and Joost had to kill this person who is likely his father, but it's never really expanded upon. And then that brings us to Rosa, the protagonist of the show, who later has to decide whether or not she's going to kill her best friend, Jacob. At the end of episode 7, Moritz, the head of Aris who holds sway over which student becomes president, is approached by his daughter Carmen, who proclaims she's the right one for the job. She has spent her entire life working towards this. She's experienced and ambitious. She is tired of seeing Rosa rise up the ranks, even though she's just a novice. Moritz is smart.
Rosa, yo. This woman is sexy, yo. My gosh, she's gorgeous. Look at this woman. Look at this woman. Look at her.
Rosa rise up the ranks, even though she's just a novice. Moritz is smart. Instead of denying her daughter the chance to become president outright, he knows deep in his heart that Carmen lacks the one thing it takes to be president: sacrifice. That's why when Carmen is confronted with killing the baby, he knows she won't go through with it. Carmen finds Jacob, who is being held captive for the suspected murders of Arnold and Yost. In episode 2, Jacob became infected by Baal, an entity, as we'll come to learn, is the manifestation of everyone's guilt. He did this by touching a secret hidden wall in the basement of the society, where Baal is supposedly hidden. But before he can be fully taken over, he's saved by Rosa, and the infection only spreads to 2 of his fingers. This infection gets progressively worse, and we'll find out anytime Jacob touches someone with them, they are reminded of the guilty things they've done in their past, which drives them to commit suicide. Jacob pleads with Carmen that she must tell Rosa to release Baal. He knows Rosa is in line to become president, and only she has the power to do so. But what exactly is Baal? Baal is our guilt, the bad things that fester and eat away at ourselves. By vomiting up these black tar-like balls, the members of Eris feed Baal and do away with the guilt so they can live unfazed by the horrors of their past crimes. As we see later on in the show, members of Eris did terrible things dating all the way back to the 16th century, like slavery, for example. In order to get ahead in the world, one must do terrible things. Lie, cheat, steal, murder. But Baal allows you to do those things and not feel the guilt associated with it. Earlier in the season, Carmen asks Rosa how she thinks such a small country such as the Netherlands became so powerful. It's because Eris, who control and have controlled prominent members of society for the past 500 years, were able to do terrible things in order to stake the Netherlands' place in the world. They were willing to make terrible sacrifices in order to achieve power. The same can be said for Rosa's journey. She uses her power to kick Fleur out of the internship program, not to mention she disregards her father's wishes to look after her suicidal mother and decides to go to a party. This all culminates in her greatest sacrifice, killing her best friend, Jacob. But before we get there, Rosa is visited by Moritz just before her initiation as president. We learn that Moritz was once engaged to Rosa's mother, Joyce, before Joyce ran off to be with Rosa's father. Joyce's suicidal tendencies now make more sense. She was likely unable to give up her guilt to Baal before she ran off, and thus has lived with this guilt for the remainder of her life. Moritz reiterates to
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. I was watching the show and I was like, what he just said there, she probably couldn't give up her sin. So yeah, it makes sense why she went crazy. The sin is still playing in her mind. Her soul is still getting torn apart. You know what I'm saying? Because of the guilt that she probably did in the past. So yeah, it kind of makes sense why she's gone a bit mad. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. I hadn't picked that up. That was weird. Surprised I didn't pick that up.
Rosa that the ability to make sacrifices separates leaders from followers, that society requires of its leaders sacrifice in order for it to thrive. And if Rosa is to be president, she must prove herself by making such a sacrifice. Meanwhile, the Aris alumni have gathered for the initiation of the new president. Moritz addresses them, saying Aris has been out of balance for years. Not even the innocent youth can restore this balance. In the past, Baal fed off the guilt of the young and innocent in order to sustain itself, but lately this hasn't been working. Aris has lost the power it once held in the world, and thus Moritz says it's time for radical change. Rosa is the encapsulation of this. Not only is she younger than all previous presidents, but she's a woman of color. It's a departure that Moritz believes will steer the society in the right direction. At the initiation, as all the alumni watch, Rosa is tasked with killing her best friend Jacob. This is her sacrifice. Interestingly enough, it's Jacob who tells her to go through with it. He knows he's slowly being taken over by the guilt. His time is ending, but he tasks her with setting Baal free for good. The question is, will she do it? Meanwhile, outside Eris, Rosa's father meets up with Carmen, who, it seems, has decided to leave the group. He knows how evil Eris is after what it did to Joyce, and now it seems the same thing is happening to his daughter. In the basement of Eris, Rosa is taken to a white circular room where a swirling black liquid flows in its center. Moritz tells her that Baal isn't a person or thing. It's him, it's her, it's everyone. It's a story, something to fear. He turns his attention to the black water, older than Amsterdam itself. In fact, no one knows how old it is. The water is comprised of everything their members expel from their bodies, the guilt and things they don't want to talk about. They use the water's potential to make decisions others can't even think about. This allows them to rise to positions of power without the weight of guilt on their shoulders. Rosa collapses to the ground, ready to vomit out the guilt of killing Jacob, as we get glimpses of this old woman saying, "The darkness inside of me is what I give to you." This is the same woman we saw a few episodes earlier when Moritz was a young man. She hasn't aged a bit, but who exactly is she? The simple answer is that we don't know, that likely being a thread for Season 2. However, judging by her shackles and how she's imprisoned by Aris, it's likely they're using her for her power. She's likely some ancient entity that has been captured and her power harnessed for nefarious purposes. It is now up to Rosa to set her free. Instead of throwing up her guilt, Rosa contains it, part of it seeping out of her eyes. She makes the greatest sacrifice at all, throwing herself into the black water. It's here we are revealed one of Aris's biggest crimes, slavery. One of the ways Aris rose to power and prominence was by enslaving thousands. Moritz says Aris had been using this black water for 500 years, which lines up with the Dutch slave trade of the 1600s. I actually would have liked to have seen other nefarious things Aris did throughout history to further nail this point. As Morris watches on, the flow of water stops, and as soon as this happens, he knows something has gone dreadfully wrong. With Rosa emerging from the water, completely covered in this black liquid, so too has centuries of guilt built up by its members been unleashed on the world. She appears in front of the alumni who watch on in horror. Some of the patrons even go so far as to kill themselves, a result of the guilt returning back to them. As Rosa makes her way past alumni who have taken their own lives, flashes of paintings appear on screen. Some of them depicting Dutch wars, others including men in high positions of power, likely members of Aris. This one, for example, is the 1669 Carol Dujardin painting, The Regents of the Spin House, which depicts local merchants who were getting rich off the goods manufactured by the Dutch Empire, trade which involved exploitation, slavery, and domination of foreign colonies and peoples. But perhaps the most important painting shown is the Threatened Swan by Jan Asselin. This is the painting Rosa looks at way back in episode 1. It shows a swan defending an egg from a dog. Carmen tells Rosa that the egg represents Holland and the dog is outside forces threatening it. Although she never explicitly says it, the swan is meant to represent Aris as being the protector of Holland. All of these paintings showing Dutch power are juxtaposed to the carnage and violence once Bial has been released. Rosa makes her way to the president's office where she finds Morris has already cut off his face with a pair of scissors. I can't even show it because it is so explicit. We don't know exactly what Moritz did in the past, but it must have been pretty bad. She stoically makes her way over to the president's chair and sits down. Ironic that her ascent to power has also resulted in the destruction of the organization that brought her to it. But even weirder is the appearance of her father, who comes in and gives her a hug. He is unafraid, and there are no words spoken between the two. That's because he has nothing to be afraid of. He has no guilt, or at least has learned to live with it. Rosa's father represents the...
That's the thing, I think the dad is like, the guilt wouldn't affect you if you're already over it. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't affect you if you're like, you literally just either you have no guilt anymore, or you've just got past it. It hasn't affected you in any way, so... Yes, I think that's probably what it is.
The opposite of Aris, a follower who leads a good and just life rather than a leader who did unfathomable things to rise to power. But the ending still leaves us with several unanswered questions. Who exactly is or was this chained person? As Moritz says earlier, Baal is not a person, it's more an idea or a story. Thus, this chained person is more so a metaphor than an actual physical being. It is the years of guilt locked and chained away, struggling to get out. It is only when Rosa jumps into the pool of black liquid that she becomes the personification of this guilt. If there is a season 2, Rosa will be infused with all the memories, guilt, and trauma of the Aris society, which makes her a danger to them and their existence, which could make for an interesting season 2 with her either being hunted down or her hunting them down. The biggest mystery for me, however, is the old lady who doesn't seem to age. How does she fit into everything? The fact Aris has her locked up means she's either dangerous or Aris is exploiting her for her power, perhaps a combination of both. With Aris seemingly destroyed, what will become of her, and what will her relationship to Rosa be? Was Aris doing something good by keeping her chained up, or were they doing something evil? Keep in mind the only person ever to really interact with her was Moritz, so it's possible this was someone in his imagination, some part of his past that he's held on to. I will say that the existence of Aris also calls into question the existence of other such groups. Is there perhaps an English secret society that also harnesses this power? An American one? How far does the lore behind Bial and its link to the history of the world go? Unfortunately, we don't know if Aris has been picked up for season 2, but with Aris being a relatively cheap show to put on and the rise of horror TV shows, I wouldn't be surprised if it got picked up, even considering some of the show's less than favorable reviews. If you want to join my secret society guilt-free...
Yo! Yeah, though. That show is amazing. That's why I was just quiet for the whole of it. I just wanted to know what his thoughts were on the show, because my thoughts on the show, oh my gosh, it was stunning. Visuals, yo, kept it simple, but it's powerful. You know, so everything they did was just like to full effect. Oh my gosh. Even to the chains, you know what I'm saying, the visuals of like Jacob with his two fingers being affected, just like touching people, just taking people's soul. It's like, yes, he's basically the teen Ghost Rider. That's basically what Jacob was in this show. He was Ghost Rider, giving the penance day of the penance touch. That's what he was doing. Like any kind of touch, literally, they were seeing their sins, and the sins killed him. That's basically what it was. He was the manifestation of guilt. So I like that. So then literally Rosa became the full manifestation of guilt. It only gave Jacob a touch, but Rosa was the main goal of Bale, you know what I'm saying, of the spirit. But as I said before, the old woman with the chains, a lot of people in the comment section, I was reading the comment section as well while I was watching this, they were talking about how she's probably the manifestation of Holland itself, who's been chained up, like just a manifestation of the guilt of Holland, the slavery, and I was like, that's pretty interesting. That's a good take on the woman behind the mirror, behind the glass door, who Moritz talks to all the time. So, but at the same time, what Think Story said as well, it could be a manifestation of Moritz because he sees her as a kid, as a kid too. So I don't know how that's gonna play into it. So, but since he is the head honcho, he was the boss, he was the headmaster. Well, technically, he probably had access to her in the first place. That's probably how he got his claim to fame, because someone had it before him, and he acquired the rights to talk to her. You know what I'm saying? So she only talks to the head bosses, it looks like. So yeah, there's that. But yes, but it's gonna be interesting. Rosa, full power of demonic forces she has at her disposal. So it's interesting, very interesting. The visuals reminds me of that movie. Let me find it. Reminds me of this movie. Let me try to find it real quick. What's her name? What is her name? Scarlett Johansson's movie. I'll try to find it. Scarlett Johansson. I think you guys will probably know what it is, what I'm trying to find. The visuals, and even just Rosa being in all black, it just reminded me of like that Alien movie, what she was in. She was an alien. Yeah, the Under the Skin. That's what it reminded me of. Reminded me of Under the Skin. The visuals. But yeah, I loved every second of this show. All 8 episodes. Netflix is churning out bangers. And it looks like they ain't stopping anytime soon. Aries, Ragnarok, Europe TV's she's on the rise, yo. It is fire. Don't sleep on these European shows, yo. Go out there and watch it. Support. We need to read more cinema, read more TV like this. That's what we need, especially in these times, yo. We need good TV. Now we've got this time to watch it, you know what I mean? Like proper time to actually binge these shows. So yeah, this is in the books. Aries Explained, Think Story. Tell me guys, speak in the comment section down below. Tell me what you guys think of the show, my reaction. Yeah, tell me your ideas about the show is. How do you think? Explain, you know what I'm saying, your thoughts on the show, what it meant. Just anything down there in the comment section down below. Remember to thumbs this video up, share the video, subscribe, press that notification bell, and follow me in the free place you can find your boy, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are. Stay safe out here in these streets. This is Legend of All 101 signing out. Peace.